Hello, boys and girls. We are going to be reading another chapter of Black Beauty today. Yesterday's chapter for you was about Lady Anne. Do you remember what happened to Lady Anne? So she rides Lizzie, and she didn't usually ride Lizzie. Who did she usually ride? Black Beauty. And Lizzie was a very nervous, frightened horse, and so she ran off, and Lady Anne actually got badly injured when she fell, or both of them fell. So Lady Anne ended up being okay at the end of the chapter before. Today we're going to start reading about a man who is taking over to take care of the horses while York is away. So York is basically like the John Manley of this new place, Earl's Hall. I'm going to present my screen so we can read along together. And if you have a book, it's chapter 25. If it's this version, it starts on page 125. Now, I must say a little about Reuben Smith, who was left in charge of the stables when York went to London. No one more thoroughly understood his business than he did. And when he was all right, there could not be a more faithful or valuable man. He was gentle and very clever in his management of horses, and could doctor them almost as well as a farrier, for he had lived 2 years with a veterinary surgeon. A farrier is one who takes care of like the hooves of a horse. So he was a first-rate driver. He could take a 4 in hand or a tandem, or 2 together, as easily as a pair. He was a handsome man, a good scholar, and he had very pleasant manners. I believe everybody liked him. Certainly the horses did. The only wonder was that he should be in an under situation and not in the place of a head coachman like York. But he had one great fault, and that was the love of drink. So he is a wonderful person, good with the horses, nice manners. It seems strange that he isn't a head coachman like York, but the main reason for that is the love of drink. And this is referring to him drinking too much alcohol, which some of your parents might drink alcohol at times, and it's not necessarily something that is bad for adults, but he loved it so that he became drunk very often. So sadly, that's going to happen within our chapter today. He was not like some men, always at it. He used to keep steady for weeks or months together, and then he would break out and have a bout of it, as York called it, and be a disgrace to himself, a terror to his wife, and a nuisance to all that had to do with him. So when he didn't drink, he was a good man. But then when he would have something to drink, he would have too much of it. And everybody. He was, however, so useful that 2 or 3 times York had hushed the matter up and kept it from the Earl's knowledge. So when he is not drinking, Reuben is the best worker. So people wanted to keep him around, even though when he drank alcohol, he became a terrible person to everybody, including his wife and everybody else around him. Now, one night when Reuben had to drive a party home from a ball, he was so drunk that he could not hold the reins, and a gentleman of the party had to mount the box and drive the ladies home. Of course, this could not be hidden, and Reuben was at once dismissed, meaning he was fired. His poor wife and little children had to turn out of the pretty cottage by the park gate and go where they could. So it affects his wife and kids because he can't keep a steady job. Old Max told me all about this. Max is one of the other horses. For it happened a good while ago. But shortly before Ginger and I came, Smith had been taken back again. York had interceded for him with the Earl, who was very kind-hearted, and the man had promised faithfully that he would never taste another drop as long as he lived there. He says, I promise I will not ever drink again. Now he had kept that promise so well that York thought he might be safely trusted to fill his place while he was away. So Reuben is going to take York's place while York leaves. And he was so clever and honest that no one else seemed so well fitted for it. It was now early in April, and the family was expected home sometime in May. The light brougham was to be fresh done up, and as Colonel Blantyre was obliged to return to his regiment, it was arranged that Smith should drive him to the town in it and ride back. Colonel Blantyre, I think, is the same person who was in last chapter with Lady Anne, the cousin. So for this purpose, he took the saddle with him, and I was chosen for the journey. So he's going to ride Black Beauty into town. At the station, the colonel put some money into Smith's hand and bid him goodbye, saying, "Take care of your young mistress, Reuben, and don't let Black Auster be hacked about by any random young prig that wants to ride him. Keep him for the lady." So we left the carriage at the maker's, and Smith rode me to the White Lion and ordered the ostler to feed me well. Remember an ostler? That is the name for the person taking care of horses at a hotel. So the White Lion must be a hotel they're staying at. And have me ready for him at 4 o'clock. Now, a nail in one of my front shoes had started as I came along, meaning started to come loose. The nail is what keeps that horseshoe in place that protects the hoof. But the ostler did not notice it till just about 4 o'clock. Now, Smith did not come into the yard till 5, and then he said he should not leave, as he had met with some old friends. He's really behind schedule. The man then told him of the nail and asked if he should have the shoe looked at. "No," said Smith, "that will be all right till we get home." He spoke in a very loud, offhand way, and I thought it seemed very unlike him to not see about the shoe, as he was generally wonderful particular about loose nails in our shoes. He did not come at 6 nor 7 nor 8. It was nearly 9 o'clock, remember he was supposed to be there at 4, before he called for me, and then it was with a loud and rough voice. How do you think he's changed? He's probably gotten to drinking again. Now, he seemed in a very bad temper, and he abused the ostler, though I could not tell what for. The landlord stood at the door and said, "Have a care, Mr. Smith," but he answered angrily with an oath. And almost before he was out of the town, he began to gallop, frequently giving me a sharp cut with his whip, though I was already going at full speed. The moon had not yet risen, and it was very dark. The roads were stony, having been recently mended. Going over them at this pace, my shoe became looser, and as we neared the turnpike gate, it came off altogether. So he's got 3 hooves that have a horseshoe on them, 1 without. Now, if Smith had been in his right senses, he would have been sensible of something wrong in my pace. So it'd be like losing a shoe, and then you still have to run as hard as you can. You're not going to run as well if you've got 1 shoe off. Beyond the turnpike, so he was something wrong in my pace, but he was too drunk to notice that 1 shoe was gone. Beyond the turnpike was a long piece of road upon which fresh stones had just been laid. Large, sharp stones, over which no horse could be driven quickly without risk of danger. Now, a horse can not necessarily hurt their hooves if they walk carefully, but they can't run full pace on even sharp stones. Now, over this road with 1 shoe gone, I was forced to gallop at my utmost speed. My rider, meanwhile, cutting into me with his whip and with wild curses, urging me to go still faster. Of course, my shoeless foot suffered dreadfully. The hoof was broken and split down to the very quick, and the inside was terribly cut up by the sharpness of the stones. This could not go on. No horse could keep his footing under such circumstances. I apologize. I have to stop the video here, and I will have a part 2 of it because somebody is at my door. I've got workers here. Okay. I will stop the video here and continue in just a moment.